recognize Mr. Moore of Utah for 5 minutes.
Thank you. Great job hosting. Wonderful venue. Thanks for setting this all up for us today. Mr. Romano, your line of questioning with my colleague from West Virginia actually hit on a lot of the things I wanted to talk about. So instead, I'm going to pivot and actually ask you and Mr. Turkle to just reiterate for the group today just the salient point in both of your areas. Mr. Romano, you're talking a lot about competitiveness with China and some of the unfair practices that they're doing with respect to international trade. Mr. Turkle, we're talking forced labor camps in Xinjiang province with the Uyghur population, something I'm proud that the U.S. is working on. We're not there yet, but we're taking action on this. Just clearly communicate to us one more time, what do we and the rest of the world, or those partners of ours across international coalitions, need to continue to do or do more of to combat both of your areas of influence and of expertise?
So, as I mentioned, I gave a couple of statistics around what's happening in other areas of the world where things like Section 301 are not being utilized. It's very public what some of the Chinese companies are doing. Actually, I've got a document here that shows what the largest company did. I made reference to it in my presentation, where they're publicly saying, they're at 50%, they're adding more capacity, and their goal is to see the removal of Western suppliers. So it's not just in the U.S. We operate on 6 different continents. The U.S., we have our largest TiO2 facility, but we also operate on every continent. We sell into 120 different countries. We have a plant in Brazil where exports into Brazil have gone from 60,000 tons to 90,000 tons. The way they are continuing to penetrate using stolen technology in many instances and then expanding that. There's a book called The Tiger Trap, which is a great read, and it talks about how over time, decades, the Chinese accumulate technology and then eventually start to put that in place, and that's what you're seeing now. We've had experience with plant closures in Georgia, as I've mentioned. We closed a plant in Antwerp. There are at least 2 companies today in Spain and Germany that are looking at closing down. So it's not just the U.S. The U.S. has done a great job of managing that and, again, protecting U.S. business and particularly our businesses. But it's continuing to reinforce what's been happening and continuing to reevaluate, are those tariffs high enough? Today, the Chinese, you can use an average price of our product today is around $3,000 a ton. In many instances, we're being undercut by more than $1,000 a ton, and we know these companies are not making money.
Thank you. Mr. Turkle.
Thank you. For starters, we have to recognize our own problem, which is our complicity in the ongoing atrocity crimes. American consumers need to know that more than 80 global brands that we consume on a daily basis, agricultural products, cleaning supplies, solar panels, EV batteries, literally everything is made with slave labor. I just mentioned 55,000 entities doing business in the Uyghur homeland, Uyghur region. That explains. And then 2, we need to close the loophole. The de minimis is one of the areas that we need to target. I commend the 24 members of Congress recently wrote asking SEC to demand the Shane Company to go through mandatory independent auditing. That is one way to look at it. And then also naming shaming. It's so important when you deal with the issues at this magnitude. We should not let any perpetrators, any bad actors to stay anonymous. We have about 50,000 companies that have been responsible for internal labor transfer. We should go after them if 55,000 is too much to deal with. And also, finally, we need to stop investing in our own self-destruction. The American people are still investing in Chinese high-tech. There are 64 companies that have been sanctioned because of the human rights abuses. Only 11 of them are not listed or identified as the companies that the American people should not make an investment.
Thank you so much. Well, Mr. Heminger, a few seconds left. Just to thank you for your work with respect to USMCA. My northern part of Utah, where my district is, strong dairy producers, and so the work you're doing to create competitiveness and making sure we're all playing by the same rules is very important. So, and thank you for your comments as well on immigration and comprehensive immigration reform. We have to think about every step of this, and it's great to hear your perspective. So thank you, and I yield the time I don't have back.
Thank you very much. The chair recognizes Ms. Steele from California for 5 minutes.